Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
And now to our bigger story for today's conversation. We're going to start with the Economic Stabilization Bill 2024, which was recently approved by the Federal Executive Council. Now, this bill is driven by recommendations by the Presidential Tax Reforms Committee, headed by Taiwo Oyedele, and the essence of this bill is to ensure that the tax laws in Nigeria are harmonized in a way that is going to create economic stability. Joining us for this conversation, we have Dr. Benjamin Enamudu, who joins us from Abuja. He's the chairman, FCT Tax Practitioners, and the vice chairman, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Dr. Enamudu, glad to have you join us this morning. How are you today, and how is Abuja?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you for having me. Abuja is fine, but the weather is a bit cold this morning. It's nice to be here.
All right, what a good day. I guess that's in preparation for the independence anniversary coming up tomorrow. It's quite strategic that we're having this conversation with you. You are at the seat of power where this bill was approved. So it makes it quite strategic and interesting. So let's start by you giving us a background for our viewers to understand the initiative and the essence of these bills. What are the things that are so significant about this bill, and why do you think there's need for amendments as proposed by the Tax Reforms Committee? Let's start with that.
Okay, thank you very much. I will start, I would want to break it into four, I would decomponentize it into four aspects. The first would be, what is the stabilization bill? How is it intended to have its effects? What are the intended effects? And then we'll talk about why. Why do we need to have the stabilization bill? And then which is the when. The bill still needs to be passed by the National Assembly before it becomes law. Now, to situate where we are, what this bill intends to achieve, sometime on the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, person of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, wrote out some of the intentions and ideas behind the Economic Stabilization Bill. And he said it's part of the Accelerated Stability and Advancement Plan of the government. So essentially what this bill intends to do is to amend about 15 different tax laws, fiscal and establishment laws, to facilitate economic stability and set the country on the path of sustained growth. That is the idea behind it. So how they intend to do is they have come up with some changes which they said are designed to achieve certain economic and social objectives. Key amongst them is reduction in inflation and price stability. They also said they is designed to complement monetary policy measures and appropriate fiscal interventions to strengthen the naira and sustain exchange rate convergence. Also, they are seeing a situation where to promote fiscal discipline and consolidation, enhance job creation and poverty alleviation, and then promote export promotion. So these are the core of the objectives, amongst others, which the Economic Stabilization Bill is intended to achieve. So how do they intend to do this? They have proposed some changes to our laws, especially as regards the tax and fiscal aspects, to drive these objectives. They intend to achieve the objective of inflation reduction, price stabilization, exchange rate harmonization, and fiscal discipline, job creation, export. So what are these key changes that the government is looking at? There are proposed key changes, about 10 of them, to the laws which we have presently in order to do what now, in order to drive this objective. So some of these key changes would include amendments to the income tax laws that we have presently to facilitate employment opportunities for Nigerians in Nigeria and within the global value chain, including and especially
Oh my,
the
it's
part of
looking
the
like
tax law. And then
the
they're also looking
internet
at
will not.
amendments to
Okay,
facilitate.
Dr.
Can you hear me?
Amudu, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, sorry. It's like I lost you at some point.
No problem, we understand. Please go ahead with your thoughts.
Okay, so I was trying to explain some of the key changes that we are envisaging when this bill is passed into law. The key changes there will be changes, amendments in our income tax laws. We are envisaging amendments to our VAT laws, amendments to facilitate investment in the gas sector and simplify local content requirements. There are going to be amendments to reform the foreign exchange regime and enhance the regulatory powers of the central bank to unlock more forex liquidity, strengthen the naira, and sustain rate convergence. There are also going to be amendments towards tax reliefs for private sector, those who are employers, in respect of wage award, transport subsidies provided to their employees. Also, we are looking at the possibility of tax relief for companies that generate incremental employment and retain such employees for a minimum of 3 years. They're also looking at the fiscal discipline and enhancement of remittances from government agencies and corporations to the consolidated revenue fund of the federal government. Then they are looking at enhanced collaboration with states to suspend certain tax laws on small businesses and vulnerable populations. Over time, we've heard the chairman of the committee think part of their goals, long-term goals, is that they want to simplify Nigerian taxes such that we have a single-digit number of taxes. In fact, he has specifically mentioned that 9 is the figure they are looking at, so that you come into the country, you are not inundated with barrage of taxes. You have these taxes are simplified, and then you know what exactly you are meant to pay. So number 9, as part of the objective, is the introduction of tax identification, consolidation, and collaboration initiative, which is intended to expand the tax base and widen the tax need. Then finally, they talked about provision of additional funding for the student loan scheme, which the federal government recently passed into law. So those are some of the key reforms that we are envisaging with this stabilization bill. So if I were to, time will permit me, I want to talk about the why. Why do we need this economic
All right.
stabilization bill?
Before you talk about why we need this bill, maybe you can wrap it up with this question.
Yes.
Give us an idea of looking at the existing tax laws in Nigeria. Give us a picture of some of the issues around the existing tax laws. Maybe that will also help you to talk about the reason the Economic Stabilization Bill is important, or is quite crucial at this time. But I want you to start or wrap the two together by giving us first the picture of the existing tax laws, the loopholes, the issues around them, and what impact will this be made in making it proper or better?
Okay, let me start with the aspects that encroach into the local government taxes in Nigeria. If you are a typical transport, run a transport or holiday, you observe that from point to point, there are a catalog of taxes, rates, levies you need to pay. Someone counted as much as 56 of them. So these taxes that are paid by transporters, the levies that are paid by transporters, they eventually find their way to the end users of this product. So it pushes the prices of goods in the market. What the committee is looking at now is to see that we are able to harmonize these taxes so that we eliminate the ones that are not necessarily the frivolous ones amongst them, such that if you put all these taxes into one, the transporter can, from the point of takeoff, plan his taxes to say, okay, I am envisaging that between Kano and Lagos, I am going to pay so and so amount, and he can plan around that, and then it is not going to put pressure on his business. You will see all manner of between the two ends as it is today. The cost of rates and levies along the line could be as much as 50%. You know, so those are some of the things that end up shooting up prices of goods and services in the market. There's the aspect of tax identification, consolidation, and collaboration, which is also very, very important. There's the need for the federal and the state government to work together in this aspect. As it is today, each state is independent and can make laws as to how they intend to administer the laws that applies to their state. And then you have a situation where there are some people within the economy that are floating between states, such that they have businesses in state A and are living in state B. So in Nigeria, our tax law is residency based. The way it is now, if we don't have this collaboration, there are people that are operating in the economy that will be outside the tax net. But by the time we have this consolidation, it will be it becomes quite difficult for people to evade tax along the line. Then they also talked about support for the student loan scheme, which is one of the very, very positive policies of this government to assist students in having funds to run their school program. There is now how they will be funded. I think a certain percentage from the education tax will be going towards that aspect. Then we are talking about tax relief for. Okay, so now the burden of the economy is also telling a lot on businesses, such that ability and capacity to employ is being whittled down. Now, government is saying, look, we are going to provide some form of reliefs for businesses who are going to generate incremental. Why is government doing this? Is to see that the businesses are able to retain their staff and then possibly employ more. Then there are aspects to this tax law. They are going to we're talking about the VAT laws are also going to be amended such that it should stimulate exports. So these are some of the amendments that will come in the tax law that are different from what we are doing. And also importantly, I need to mention digital taxation of the digital economy. A huge chunk of our economy now is on the cyberspace, and government has not been able to adequately capture income that is coming from that aspect. So this bill, part of what it tends to achieve is to provide measures that will help government to tap into the opportunities in the taxation of the digital economy.
All right, you must have noticed the kind of clash that exists between tax agencies, maybe the agencies of the federal, that of the state and local government when it comes to collection of tax, where there's a clash between Federal Inland Revenue Service and that of the state, and some instances you have that of local government. You've had several court cases in this regard. How will this bill also address this kind of disparity or clash that do exist when it comes to the issue of tax regime in Nigeria?
That question is a very deep one. So essentially, there are really no clashes administratively when it comes to taxation, because everybody have their jurisdiction in collection of taxes. Where the issues lie is these are constitutional issues about which taxes the federal should collect, which one should apply to states, and which one should apply to local government. Issues around sales tax, for instance, constitutionally, it should be within the purview of states. But in Nigeria today, the value-added tax that is operative is being executed by the federal government. So there are constitutional issues around that. I think the National Assembly is looking at it to say who indeed is eligible to collect transactional taxes as regards activities within the Nigerian economy. So those are the few areas that we could say there's no clear delineation as to indeed who are eligible to collect. So you see, there have been instances where the states are taking the federal government to court on this particular issue. I think the issue somehow is being resolved the realms of politics, but essentially we don't have the kind of clashes that we are looking at now between the federal and the state. They all have their areas of operation. So administratively, there are no clashes.
All right, let's look at the issue of value-added, which according to Taiwo Yedele, the proposal here is to float what we call zero-rated value-added tax to promote export. How will this play out if you're floating a zero value-added tax? What will be the impact of that on government revenue, and how will it impact businesses? And specifically, how will it promote export as been stated in this proposal?
Okay, I think you've asked about 2-3 questions. How will it affect business, government revenue, and how will it promote export? So essentially, value-added tax is just like any other tax. It adds to the final prices of goods and services. Now, what happens is that if I were to sell to export a particular good or service as it were, and I'm supposed to export it at 100,000 naira, it means because there's a VAT component on top of it, I will have to factor in VAT, and it will have to be going for 107,500 at our present VAT rate of 7.5%. What this does is to make our export a bit more expensive and a bit less competitive. So we're in a very competitive global market, and government is looking at how do we drive exports, because part of the critical challenges we are having in Nigeria today is that we are not exporting enough. If you look at, I was looking at the value of exports for Nigeria in 2022. Our total exports stands at about $71 billion, whereas Vietnam, a very small Asian country, is exporting $384 billion. It means that there's a whole lot that we still need to do as an economy. It's affecting everything. It's affecting our exchange rate. The economy, we are not promoting export-oriented industries. So when you bring in such policies as to say, okay, look, we want to encourage exports, we are removing, we are zeroizing VAT for exports. We want to float a zero-rated VAT policy for export. It means that we can export cheaper, and then people will be, other countries will be willing to buy more from us. So it's good for the businessman. It means that the businesses can export more and bring in more dollar into the economy. As for the government, of course, it will lead to a loss in revenue, because the money government would have made from the VAT on such goods and services will no longer be available. Then I've also mentioned that, of course, these are policies that are intended to stimulate export and improve what we are doing as regards inflow of foreign exchange into the economy, because Nigeria needs it now more than ever.
All right, now we're going to the details of the proposal. One of the things stated here is that amendment to income tax laws to facilitate employment opportunities. Now, as a tax expert, I would like you to give us a picture. When you hear of amendment to income tax to promote employment opportunities, what kind of picture or what are you expecting? What are your expectations and recommendations in this regard? What are the necessary
Okay.
amendments that should be made to income tax laws in Nigeria?
Okay. So we are envisaging, what I'm looking at is a lot of reliefs that will come for businesses who are going to increase or be able to retain the number of employees that they have engaged. And it's something that have been done before. If you look at the 2019 Finance Act as passed, there were provisions for categorization of businesses to say, look, if you are a business within the threshold of 25 billion, you are not expected to pay any income tax. So the income is taxed at 0%. And if your income is between 25 and 100 million, you pay income tax at 20% as against the 30% for businesses that are 100 million and above. So the fact that government could come up with a policy and say, if you have businesses that their turnover is below 25 million in a year, you are exempted from paying taxes. I wouldn't be surprised if government should come and say, look, for every businesses, maybe to say, okay, if you are employing 25 persons and above, your tax, you would get a 2% relief on your tax. Okay, so the businesses could be like, should I employ more and enjoy this opportunity of tax relief? If the arithmetic add up for them, of course, they would they want to employ more and enjoy those reliefs. So is what government has worked around before, and I think the templates are there for them to implement. So I am looking at a lot of reliefs that government is going to provide for businesses such that their income tax is going to be reduced in tandem with the capacity and ability to employ more Nigerians into their food. So that's the direction I think the committee would want to approach this particular matter.
All right. Another area this committee is looking at the oil and gas sector to also see how they can amend what you call the Local Content Act to see how you can bring efficiency into that sector. Now, as a player in this sector, as someone who has been following the trends of things in Nigeria, what are some of the critical issues associated with Local Content Act in Nigeria? And if you're looking at reforms that has to do with laws guiding the oil and gas sector, what are some of these amendments that should be made to that sector? For years, the issue of Local Content Act has been there, but you understand that the preference has not been given to local content players in that sector. How will this bill or this amendment, factor the interest of local content players in this sector? And what will be your recommendations as regards amendment to the oil and gas sector?
All right, thank you. Just like you have mentioned, we have laws in place to promote local content in the oil and gas industry. In fact, if you look at the Petroleum Industry Act, a lot of provisions have also been made, but on the aspect of implementation, it has not really worked out as envisaged. So what I think the government is looking at now is how do we further improve on the local content law using tax as a base for businesses in the gas sector. So using tax as a base is like I said, very, very, very easy. So the approach would be simple. If you are going to use local content for your activities and operations, we are envisaging another form of relief that could come, say, 5% on your income tax. So say if you're a business and you can prove that 80% of your cost are local content, or certain percentage that the government could come up with. So if you are able to do your local content at, say, 30%, 75, 80%, as the case may be, you are entitled to additional relief of, say, 5%, or you could get a tax credit of 2%, 1%. So these stimulus are intended to drive local content beyond what we have now, because the idea is we need to use Naira more. We need to buy Nigeria, patronize the Naira. So you could see what government is also doing along the line of Naira sales to of crude to Dangote Industries. All these are plans or ideas intended to show up the value of our local currency. So there, what I would suggest is, if you ask me, it's in direction of what I just looked at. Give a certain percentage target. If you are able to, say, use local content, 75% of your operations, your operational costs, then you are entitled to additional income tax relief of 5%, or you could give them tax credit. If we don't want to give them, you could give them tax credit or, say, 2%, certain percentage, depending on how the mathematics works out.
So let's look at the SMEs, which when it comes to the issue of tax, they are usually or likely affected by the fact that if you look at that sector, it's likely not formalized. And for that kind of sector that is critical to economic growth or to drive economic growth and development in a place like Nigeria, what kind of amendment are you expecting or initiative are you expecting as regards regarding the provision of this bill to take care of the issue of the SMEs, small businesses who belong to the informal sector, or when it comes to the tax regime, is largely not formalized? What can be done in this regard to improve their lot and also introduce technology into tax regime in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. So when we say the SMEs are operating in the informal sector, it's not in all instances. We have SMEs that are formalized, that are registered. So when you go by our interpretation of what constitutes small and medium businesses, don't forget, I mentioned earlier that the 2019 Finance Act has interpreted small businesses to be businesses that are doing turnovers 25 million and below. Then there are businesses that do turnovers between 25 and 100 million are categorized as medium scale businesses. So we have, so the question you have asked, I would disaggregate it into two. So we have SMEs that are in the informal sectors, and then we have the ones that are in the formal sector. I will start with the SMEs that are in the informal sector. Now, the informal sector, it means that these businesses are usually not registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Usually taxing them is a challenge because technology to aggregate and tax them is still a bit at the infancy stage. But what we also need to appreciate is that overall, these small businesses, the market women, the shoe menders, the small traders in the market, these people pay some form of taxes and levies that, when you compare it to even the actual tax rate we should pay in Nigeria, they probably are even paying more than they should pay in form of market levies, union levies, this levy, that levy. So they are doing more than their fair share, if you ask me. What we need to do, like the fiscal committee, that Mr. Oyedele is leading, what they have tried to do is to see how do we streamline the taxes at this end, so that we don't overburden these market women with issue of taxes. Yes, they need to pay their fair share, but the way it is today, they are paying more than their fair share. If you ask me, if you take around our local market, you could see a typical trader who maybe their income or surplus for the day will be about 3,000 naira. They will be paying 1,000 naira for as market levy or store levy or whatever levy. And sometimes they pay this money daily. They pay daily. As soon as you come to the market, there's a particular fee you must pay for that day. If you aggregate what these people are paying daily on a monthly and a yearly basis, you will be shocked as to how much they are paying. So they're actually paying more than enough. But what government could do in that, what I've suggested in other papers are presented, is let us look at a way of bringing these people together. Let's aggregate them into a smaller, closer components where government could explain its policies and how they should go about their businesses without running foul of our laws. So that is on one aspect. Then there's the second leg, which are the SMEs that are in the formal sector that are registered businesses. Now, I have a little bit of issue here. When the 2019 Act was passed, and we categorized small businesses as businesses that are doing turnovers of 25 million and below. As at that time, dollar was exchanging at about 360 to a dollar. So effectively, about $70,000 was what small businesses were categorized as at then. But today, $70,000 is over 100 million naira now. And we have not yet amended our law, because the idea behind that categorization is to give relief to small businesses so that at that stage they are not burdened with income tax. They are able to employ more persons because of the extra monies that they are going to get by not paying their taxes, employ more Nigerians. But over time, the benefits of that act has practically been whittled out, because 25 million naira for a small business today, it's quite small, looking at what the original policy intended to achieve. So I would have thought that part of what they should be looking at is how to increase the categorization to 100 million or at least 50 million naira. So we're saying if you're a small business and you are doing turnover 50 million and below, you should not be paying income taxes for now, at least till the economy stabilizes and gets better. So, so that aspect, I think we have not yet gotten it right, and it still leaves room for improvement for small businesses. We don't need to businesses are going through a lot. Infrastructure, the regulatory environment, everything is choking up small businesses. And in this, we can do as an economy is to give them this relief, such that at this stage of their businesses, because the idea is when you are starting small. When the business eventually becomes bigger, then you will now pay the right income taxes, as it were. But it's not easy for business operators in the economy, especially at the SME. So I think that aspect of the law need to be revisited and then reworked. You know, a medium scale business, as at the time we said between 25 and 100 million. 100 million now, if you look at the dollar equivalency, is about 400 million now. So what are we talking about? So we have not yet done enough for small businesses, in my view.
All right, interesting. Let's also look at another recommendation by this committee, which has to do with small businesses. It's also for the federal government to collaborate with states to suspend some certain taxes on small businesses. An example of that is what you call the road haulage levies and other charges that has to do with transportation of goods. My concern here is, do you think government really have control over these sector? When you talk about road haulage levies and taxes that has to do with transportation of goods, don't you think it's also important to carry along the stakeholders here? And don't you foresee any form of resistance here?
Quite a lot of time, if I must say. Okay, so let me start with whether it's doable. Yes, it's very doable. government, the states are not insulated from the economy that we are confronted with, and everybody is doing all what it takes to put the economy back on track. And so I think it's something that can be worked out with the states, and I don't see any issue with that. In fact, as it is today, some of these taxes are tending towards what you would ordinarily want to see as extortion. Now, in Nigeria, as in any part of the world, for something to be a tax or a levy, there must be a law behind it. So it means that many of these haulage logistics tax that we have here and there, a lot of them actually have legal backing behind them. Some of them, so the states are within their rights. That's what I'm trying to say, to apply some of these taxes. Yes, there could be a few of them that tend towards extortion. Now, what the committee or the federal government should be looking at is, let the state come together. Let's have a harmonization such that if I have to travel within a particular state, I probably don't need to pay more than one levy. Even if it means to aggregate all the various levies that you need to pay at different points into one. It also creates for simplicity and certainty. It means that once I'm in this state and I'm doing my business as a small business, this is all I need to pay and no more. So if we are able to work around this, at least temporarily suspend some of these extra taxes here and there, it will give a lot of support to small businesses, because you can't be driving your holiday and at every 2 kilometers you are being stopped by one local government agent or the other, and then at the end of the day you are wasting time. Time is being consumed. We are burning more fuel, more energy on the roads, and we are putting more strain on our roads for something that you could just go to a particular point, make your payment, and then you proceed. So it is about simplicity. It's about ease of doing business. If we are able to work around it, I think it will be in the overall interest of everybody, not just for the SMEs. It's also in the interest of the government. The state government will also be able to track their revenues. Don't forget, some of these revenues find their way out of the state coffers for different reasons and purposes. So the state government will better manage its revenue and know how they are going to work out the arrangements with the local government as to, because some of these taxes are actually within the jurisdiction of local governments. But then it's something that can be worked out. At least let's have an administrative arrangement that works for everybody, works for the good of businesses, and work for the good of government. I think that's the idea behind that push by the committee.
Interesting. An administrative arrangement that works for everybody. All right. Now let's go to something that affects the CBN as regards the proposal by the Tax Reform Committee. Now the committee is talking about the need for reforms as regards forex exchange regime. I would like to quote the committee, or what is being stated here. Reform of the foreign exchange regime to enhance the regulatory powers of the CBN, unlock more forex liquidity, strengthen the naira, and sustain rates convergence. Now, let's talk about something that has to do with the CBN as the regulatory body in Nigeria. The issue of liquidity and the issue of FX in Nigeria, the foreign exchange regime in Nigeria. You're aware that the CBN decided to float the naira, and then looking at the issue that has to do with liquidity in Nigeria. What would you expect as regards the recommendation from this committee to address when it comes to the issue of strengthening the naira and then the convergence of the exchange rate in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. I think this issue of foreign exchange is a very, very delicate one. I don't know what I've not been able. I'm not privy to the details of what the committee is looking at in terms of how they want to achieve this. But personally, I have my own position as to this floating of exchange rates in Nigeria. I think it's something we'll probably need to revisit at some point. The central bank manages Nigeria's monetary policy. So at the beginning of the year, something fundamental happened that we are not taking note. The CBN, the federal government, prepared a budget, presented to the National Assembly, and part of the assumptions of that budget was the dollar exchanging for naira at 750 to a dollar. That was the assumptions were based on economic fundamentals. They just didn't come out of the bush. So if we have gotten to a point where a dollar is now closing to 1,600 as against the original plan of 750, it definitely means something has gone wrong somewhere, because that is not a 10% change, that's not 20%, that's not 30%. So why 100% change over the original mark? So we can't. I don't think we can put our hands and continue, because at the end of the day, this exchange rate affects every other aspect of the economy. So as to what the CBN fiscal committee are going to do, I don't know, but I honestly don't think this current exchange regime is sustainable. It is not helping the economy at all. I think at the point we need to come around and find out a solution where the CBN will be able to look at our economic fundamentals and say, look, based on the indices before us, the naira should be exchanging and so amount. So floating it totally is something that I think I would say maybe has not worked out the way we anticipated. So it's something that needs to be revisited. So the committee are also looking at it because it's affecting everybody. It's affecting everybody. So this idea behind naira stability, naira convergence, yes, CBN has been intervening on naira convergence. If you look at this disparity between the CBN rate and the market rate today, it's practically as converged. But it's not just about the convergence. It's about, is this rate sustainable? Is it healthy for the economy? Can we grow with this current exchange rate that we have? I think is a tall order, but I look forward to what they are going to come up with. I'm very, very much interested in that aspect. But to be honest with you, I don't know how they are going to do that, beyond the fact that they want to stimulate exports and bring in more dollar into the economy. I don't know. Let's see remember, what we are talking about is still a bill. It's not yet an act. So until it goes to the National Assembly and comes out as an act, then we will be able to scrutinize the objectives in details. Okay. So as of now, we are still dwelling around the realms of speculation a little bit. So I don't want to speculate what the committee has as in stock for us through the bill.
I think we've done justice to the issue of the bill. So let's look at the tax regime in Nigeria generally as we wrap up now. Now, what will be the role of technology, in helping to harmonize the tax laws in Nigeria and also address the issue of disparity when it comes to tax payment? Then also help in expanding the tax net in Nigeria. I want you to talk about the role of technology, how to digitalize this. As an expert, who have studied models from several countries, like you have UAE, US, and the rest of them. What kind of model are you expecting Nigeria to adopt when it comes to digitalization of the tax regime in Nigeria? And what will be the impact of that in harmonizing and also addressing the issue of disparity that has to do with payment of taxes in Nigeria as we wrap up?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. You have touched on a topic that I'm very happy to talk about. Technology is the way to go. It's not just for tax. I mean, in every other aspect of our economy, whether we're talking about security, education, technology is the way to go. So we have had beautiful success story with the Federal Inland Revenue Service with the Tax Pro Max, a local technology that was developed in-house. So Tax Pro Max is the technology that is driving tax at the federal level. At the federal level, we are doing well, but the challenge is at the state and at the local government level. The embrace of technology at this level is still very, very low. We have not yet fully come into the sphere of technology, especially at the local government level. At the local government level, tax is still very manual, and we cannot continue in that direction. Technology is the way to go. Technology simplifies taxes. It creates efficiency around tax collection. Even this harmonization we're talking about, with technology, everything is harmonized. So you go into the system, you are able to look at what you are supposed to pay, how you are meant to pay it, when it is due to be paid. So the whole process with technology is simplified. I am just looking forward to a day where I could sit in my flight, jokingly tell my colleagues, where I can just sit in my office and use my phone to pay my tax. You know, it's something that we are looking forward to. So by the time we put technology across the federation, because right now, like I said, technology is tilted towards the federal. By the time states and local government fully embrace technology, it will even be more difficult for us, because at the click of a button, we will be able to see, are you in the tax net? Are you not in the tax net? Have you paid the right amount? Have you not paid the right amount? So technology will definitely help in improving our revenue collections. It will also help in seeing that people that are evading taxes today find it more difficult to evade tax. Of course, like I said, technology is the way to go. And of course, some of the aspects of what government needs to tax these days are technology based. The crypto technology, the blockchain technologies, digital economy. So how do you go into taxation of such if you don't have the requisite technology to pursue? So technology in taxation is just the natural thing to do. In fact, I think by now we should be talking about artificial intelligence in taxation and how to use artificial intelligence for government collect taxes. We just need to keep pace with what is happening across the world with regards to our revenue collection. There's a lot of opportunities in the tax environment. There are a lot of people that are still outside the tax net. I was reading a report this morning where they say as much as 50% of companies in Nigeria are still not paying taxes. That is not a good it's not a good narrative. So what we need to do is to deploy technology even more than we are doing now to see that we are able to get the right amount of money we should get without necessarily putting extra burden on the economy.
Dr. Benjamin Enamudu, who is the chairman, FCT Tax Practitioners, we want to thank you for your time. Know that you've been able to shed light on the importance and the necessity of this bill. Let's hope that as this bill is being sent to the National Assembly, the right thing will be done and will ensure that the issue of digitalization, which you've mentioned, will also be looked into. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts on this development on Electing this morning.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you for having me, and thank you, and good morning once again to all our viewers across the world. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.